I was sitting in my sterile, glass-walled office, surrounded by the hum of servers and the cool glow of monitors. I had just authorized a wire transfer for $54,000. It was the final payment for my sister Courtney's wedding venue. I picked up my phone, expecting a thank you, maybe a heart emoji. Instead, I saw a text from her. Just so you know, you're not invited to the ceremony. It's a specific aesthetic, and you don't match the palette. I stared at the screen, blinking. Then, a second notification popped up. It was my mother, Rebecca. She had reacted to Courtney's text with a single laughing face emoji. The air left the room. It wasn't a joke. It was an eviction notice. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't scream. In my line of work, a system failure doesn't require emotion. It requires a patch. I set the device down on the cool, white surface of my desk, right next to my ergonomic keyboard. When you see a data anomaly, you audit the source. And this was a massive anomaly. I opened my banking app. Face ID recognized me instantly, the only thing in my life that did without conditions. The transaction history scrolled past, my eyes scanning the numbers with the same detachment I used to hunt for bugs in a dataset. $12,000 for the venue deposit 3 months ago. $8,000 for the florist who specialized in imported peonies because Courtney said domestic flowers looked cheap. $4,000 for the vintage champagne tower she insisted was non-negotiable for the vibe. And today's $54,000, the final installment. I looked around my office, then thought about my apartment. It wasn't the mainline fantasy estate my mother, Rebecca, pretended to live in. It was a sensible third-floor walk-up in South Philly. I took the subway to work to save on parking. My lunch, leftover quinoa and roasted vegetables, sat in a glass container every day. Practical blazers and comfortable shoes were my uniform, not the designer labels Courtney tagged in her outfit of the day posts. For years, I had been the ghostwriter of the family narrative. I wrote the checks so they could play the characters. I funded the lifestyle that allowed them to look down on me. I was the back-end code that made the beautiful interface work, and nobody wants to see the code. They just want the app to run. They want the magic without the mechanics. I leaned back in my chair, the ergonomic mesh digging into my shoulder blades. Why had I done it? Why had I transferred nearly 6 figures to a sister who rolled her eyes when I talked about my research? For a long time, I told myself it was just what families did. But looking at that laughing emoji, the cognitive dissonance finally shattered. I wasn't being a good sister. I was trapped in a sunk cost fallacy. In economics, a sunk cost is money that has already been spent and cannot be recovered. The fallacy is the psychological tendency to continue investing in a losing proposition because of what you've already put in. I had spent decades pouring resources into a failing investment, my family's affection convinced that if I just paid one more invoice, if I just solved one more crisis, the returns would finally come. I thought I was buying love, or at least respect, but I hadn't been paying for a wedding. I had been paying a tax for existing in their orbit, a tax to be tolerated. Courtney didn't uninvite me because of an aesthetic. She uninvited me because the transaction was complete. The money was sent. The utility of me was exhausted. I looked at the $54,000 transfer on my screen. Next to it, in small gray letters, was the status, pending. My finger hovered over the trackpad. I wasn't sad anymore. I was efficient, and it was time to correct the error. I picked up my phone again. The screen was still displaying the laughing emoji notification. I didn't type a paragraph. I didn't ask for an explanation or beg for a chance to change my outfit. I typed 3 words. Understood. I'll cancel the classy payments too. Send. Then I switched tabs. I logged into the wedding venue's client portal. My password was saved because, of course, I was the one who managed the account. I found the cancel event button. A warning popped up. Cancellation within 30 days results in a 50% penalty of the total booking fee. I clicked confirm. The $54,000 pending transfer was voided. Next, the florist. Then the caterer. Then the vintage car rental. The emails rolled in like a cascade of system alerts. Cancellation. Confirmed. Refund process initiated. It was rhythmic. Almost musical. Click. Cancel. Click. Cancel. My phone started vibrating on the desk. Courtney. I ignored it. Then a text from her. What did you do? The venue just called me. Another text. Answer the phone, Kayla. This isn't funny. Then my mother joined the chat. Rebecca's message popped up. Stop being dramatic. You know you don't fit in with William's people. You're too intense. You'll embarrass your sister. I stared at the word intense. That was their code word for smart. It was code for difficult because she asks questions. It was the label they slapped on me whenever my reality inconvenienced their fantasy. For years, I had been the glass child. In psychology, a glass child is the sibling of someone who takes up a disproportionate amount of parental energy, whether due to illness, disability, or in Courtney's case, sheer narcissism. The parents look right through the glass child to see the other one. They assume the glass child is fine because she doesn't shatter loudly. She is sturdy. She is transparent. She is there, but she isn't seen. I had spent my life trying to be opaque enough to be noticed. Perfect grades? They looked through me. A prestigious job? They looked through me. Paying off their debts? They looked through me. The only time they saw me was when I reflected their own image back to them when my money bought the things that made them look good. But now, I wasn't just a window pane they could ignore. I was broken glass. And if they tried to walk over me this time, they were going to bleed. My phone rang again. Courtney. I picked it up this time, not to argue, but to deliver the news. Fix it, she screamed before I could even say hello. Fix it right now. My vision board is ruined. Your vision board was expensive, I said, my voice calm, almost bored. And since I'm not part of the aesthetic, I figured my money shouldn't be either. You're just jealous, she shrieked. You're jealous because I'm getting married and you're alone with your spreadsheets. Mom was right. You're bitter. I'm not bitter, Courtney, I said. I'm balanced, and I'm closing the account. I hung up and blocked her number. Then I blocked my mother. The silence that followed was heavy, but for the first time in 32 years, it wasn't empty. It was full of possibility. I didn't argue. I didn't engage in the emotional tennis match they wanted to play. I simply switched tabs to my calendar and sent an invite to Kyle, my coworker, and the only other person at the firm who understood the architecture of our databases as well as I did. Subject: urgent audit. Location: conference room B. Time: now. Kyle met me 5 minutes later. He took one look at my face and closed the door. What happened? Server crash? Family crash? I said. I need you to help me run a forensic audit on my personal finances. Treat it like a hostile takeover. We pulled everything. Credit card statements, bank transfers, Venmo history, shared cloud accounts. We put it all up on the big monitors. For the next 3 hours, the only sound in the room was the click of keyboards and Kyle's occasional low whistle. We found the usual suspects first. The emergency transfers for rent that coincided with Coachella weekends. The medical bills that matched the price of a Balenciaga bag. But then, we found something bigger. A credit card charge from 3 weeks ago. $12,000. The vendor was Lumina Wellness Retreat. The cardholder name on the receipt was Kayla, but the email address for the confirmation was courtneyvibes@gmail.com. She used your card for a pre-wedding glow-up, Kyle said, zooming in on the invoice. Without asking? Without asking, I confirmed. I gave her the card number months ago to put a deposit on the florist. She saved it to her digital wallet. I picked up the phone. I didn't call Courtney. I called the credit card company's fraud department. I'd like to report an unauthorized transaction, I said. My voice was steady, professional. Yes, the amount is $12,000. No, I did not authorize it. Yes, I know who did it. Yes, I would like to file a formal dispute. Next, I opened a blank email draft. Recipient: Rebecca. Subject: notice of defunding. Mother: effective immediately. All financial support for the wedding, the house maintenance, and Courtney's lifestyle is terminated. I have identified $12,000 in unauthorized charges on my credit card made by Courtney. I have filed a fraud report. This is not a negotiation. This is a notification. Regards, Kayla. I hit send. The room felt colder, sharper. Kyle looked at me, impressed and a little terrified. You just nuked them from orbit. No, I said, closing my laptop. I just turned off the free trial. But I wasn't done digging. While Kyle packed up, I logged into an old family cloud drive I hadn't accessed in years, looking for the original receipt for the florist deposit to prove the card usage timeline. I started clicking through folders. 2018 taxes, house deed, dad's estate. My father had died when I was 22. A quiet heart attack that left us with a quiet grief and, I was told, a mountain of debt. That was why I hadn't gone to grad school. That was why I'd worked 3 jobs. I clicked on a PDF titled Life, Insurance, Settlement, Final. I expected to see a zero balance or a small payout that covered the funeral. Instead, I saw a number that made the room spin. $36,000. Payable to Beneficiary Trust for Kayla. Date of payout, 10 years ago. I scrolled down. There was a withdrawal slip, dated 2 weeks after the funds cleared. The signature at the bottom was shaky, a poor imitation of my own handwriting. Below it, a countersignature, Rebecca. The memo line read, Education Fund. But I had taken out loans. I had eaten ramen for 4 years. I had worked the night shift at a help desk while studying for finals because my mother told me there was no money. I opened another folder. Courtney, Modeling, Portfolio, 2014. The dates matched perfectly. The expensive headshots, the travel to New York for go-sees, the agency fees. My education fund hadn't vanished. It had been reallocated. It had been invested in the golden child. I felt a phantom hunger in my stomach, a memory of being 22 and starving, staring at a vending machine I couldn't afford. The betrayal wasn't just financial. It was biological. A mother is supposed to feed her young. Mine had taken the food out of my mouth to buy glitter for her favorite. The printer whirred, spitting out the proof of my stolen future. I picked up the warm paper. It felt heavy, like a weapon. My phone buzzed. It was William, Courtney's fiancé. Kayla, we need to talk. Courtney is hysterical. She says you're ruining everything. Can you meet me? I'm confused. I looked at the paper in my hand. Then I looked at the text. Yes, I typed. Let's meet. Bring Courtney. It was time for a boardroom collision. We met at a neutral location, a sleek coffee shop in Center City, halfway between my office and William's headquarters. I arrived early, selecting a table in the back corner. I placed the manila folder containing the fraud report and the insurance document on the table, aligning it perfectly with the edge. 10 minutes later, Courtney and William walked in. The contrast was immediate. William looked polished but concerned, wearing a suit that cost more than my car. Courtney looked like a frantic mess. Her hair was pulled back in a severe bun, her makeup was patchy, and she was wearing oversized sunglasses indoors. She was dragging William by the arm, trying to control the pace, trying to control the narrative. When William saw me, he stopped dead in his tracks. His eyes widened. He blinked, as if recalibrating his reality. Dr. Kayla, he said, his voice confused. I stood up, smoothing my blazer. Hello, William. Good to see you outside of a quarterly review. Courtney froze. She looked from William to me, panic rising in her eyes. You know each other? Know her? William looked at Courtney, bewildered. Kayla is the lead data scientist for the firm that handles our clinical trial analytics. She's brilliant. I've been trying to recruit her for 2 years. He turned back to me. Wait, you're Courtney's sister? I am, I said, though I'm surprised you didn't know. Did she never mention my name? She said her sister was. William hesitated, glancing at Courtney, who was now visibly trembling. She said her sister was a burnout, someone who couldn't hold down a job, someone unstable who we shouldn't invite around because it would be difficult. The silence that followed was thick and suffocating. A burnout, I repeated, tasting the word. Interesting. She told me she was paying for everything. Courtney burst out, her voice shrill. She told me she was the one funding the wedding. I was, I said calmly. Until 3 days ago. Wait, William said, holding up a hand. Courtney told me her family was paying. She said her parents had a trust fund. She never mentioned you were the source. There is no trust fund, William, I said. There is only my salary. And my savings, which Courtney has been draining. That's a lie, Courtney screamed. She's lying. She's jealous. Look at her. She's just a bitter spinster who wants to ruin my happiness. William looked at Courtney. Then he looked at me calm, professional, composed. He looked at the woman he was about to marry, screaming in a coffee shop, and then at the woman whose intellect he respected professionally. I could see the gears turning in his head. He was a man who valued substance. He ran a pharmaceutical company. He dealt in facts, efficacy, and results. He was looking at Courtney and realizing he had bought a placebo. She told me you were embarrassing, William said softly, almost to himself. She said you would ruin the aesthetic. I suppose competence isn't very aesthetic, I said. It's the only aesthetic that matters, William replied, his voice cooling by 10 degrees. He turned to Courtney. You lied to me. You lied about your family money. You lied about your sister. You lied about who you are. I did it for us, Courtney sobbed. grabbing his lapels. I wanted to be perfect for you. I wanted to fit in. You don't fit in by pretending to be someone else, William said, removing her hands from his suit. And you certainly don't fit in by stealing from your own family. Stealing? Courtney gasped. I didn't steal. She gave it to me. I opened the folder. I slid the paper across the table. The life insurance policy? I said. $36,000. Stolen from my education fund. Forged signature. Mother's handwriting. I slid the second paper. The credit card fraud report. $12,000. Unauthorized charge. Your email address. William looked at the documents. He didn't read them all. He didn't need to. The look on Courtney's face was a full confession. He stood up. He looked at me, a mixture of apology and respect in his eyes. I am so sorry, Kayla, he said. I had no idea. I know, I said. That's why we're here. I think we're done, William said to Courtney. The wedding is off. I can't marry a fraud. He walked out. He didn't look back. Courtney stood there for a moment, stunned. Then she turned to me, her face twisting into a mask of pure hatred. I hate you, she hissed. You ruined everything. No, Courtney, I said, picking up my folder. I just showed him the data. You ruined the results. I walked out past her, leaving her standing alone in the middle of the coffee shop. The perfect aesthetic finally shattered by the ugly truth. The fallout was nuclear. 2 hours later, William officially called off the wedding. He sent a group email to the entire guest list, CCing the vendors. He cited insurmountable breaches of trust and financial irregularities. He didn't mention my name, but he didn't need to. The wedding was over. That evening, my doorbell rang. Not the polite buzz of a delivery, but a frantic, insistent pounding. I checked the camera feed. Rebecca and Courtney were on my stoop. They looked like they had been through a natural disaster. Courtney's makeup was smeared, her hair wild. Rebecca looked pale, clutching her purse like a lifeline. I didn't open the door immediately. I watched them on the screen, 2 pixels of desperation in the South Philly night. For years, I had run to them whenever they called. I had fixed every problem, paid every bill, smoothed every rough edge. I opened the door. I didn't invite them in. I stood in the threshold, blocking the way. You ruined my life, Courtney screamed, lunging forward. Rebecca caught her arm, holding her back. Courtney, stop, Rebecca hissed. She turned to me, her eyes red-rimmed. Kayla, please, we need to fix this. You have to talk to William. Tell him it was a misunderstanding. Tell him you gave us the money. Tell him you knew about the insurance. Lie to him? I asked. Protect your family, she pleaded. We're your blood. How can you do this to us? Courtney is devastated. She's lost everything. She hasn't lost everything, I said. She still has you. Don't be cruel, Rebecca sobbed. We can work this out. I'll pay you back, I swear. Just fix it, please. I looked at my mother. I looked at the woman who had forged my signature and stolen my future to fund a fantasy. I looked at the sister who had uninvited me from her wedding because I didn't match the color scheme. I reached behind me to the console table in the hallway. I picked up a manila envelope. I had prepared it after the coffee shop meeting. I can't fix it, I said, but I can finish it. I handed the envelope to Rebecca. What is this? She asked, her hands shaking. Copies of the fraud report filed with the credit card company, I said, and copies of the life insurance documents, which my lawyer has forwarded to the district attorney's office. You forged a legal document, Mother. That's a felony. Rebecca gasped, dropping the envelope. Papers scattered across the stoop. You wouldn't, she whispered. I already did, I said. You wanted a specific aesthetic for the wedding? Well, this is the new aesthetic. It's called consequences. Courtney stared at me, her mouth open, the fight draining out of her. She looked small. She looked ordinary. Goodbye, I said. I closed the door. I locked the deadbolt. I listened to the silence settle back into the hallway. It was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. The aftermath was a quiet revolution. William, true to his character, didn't just end the engagement. He dismantled the entire facade. He sent a personal, handwritten note to me, apologizing for the disrespect he had unwittingly participated in. He praised my professional accomplishments and reiterated his company's commitment to our ongoing projects. He was a man of integrity, and his respect meant more to me than any wedding invitation ever could. Rebecca faced legal action. The insurance company, alerted by my lawyer and the evidence I provided, opened an investigation. While she avoided jail time due to her age and a plea deal, she was ordered to pay restitution. The shame of public exposure, the loss of her perfect mother image, was a punishment far worse than any fine. Her social circle quietly distanced themselves, the whispers following her wherever she went. Courtney's life imploded. Without William's status or my money, her carefully curated influencer lifestyle collapsed. She was forced to move back in with Rebecca, the two of them trapped in a small, tense apartment, feeding off each other's bitterness. I blocked her on every platform, erasing her digital footprint from my life, just as she had tried to erase my physical presence from hers. As for me, I didn't celebrate with champagne or a victory lap. I celebrated with silence. I sat in my quiet apartment, the evening sun casting long shadows across the floor. I opened my budget spreadsheet. I found the column labeled Family Support, the column that had drained my savings, my energy, and my self-worth for over a decade. I highlighted the cells. I pressed delete. The numbers vanished. The total at the bottom recalculated, showing a surplus, a future, a freedom. I closed the laptop. The apartment was still. It wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. I had rewritten my own code, debugging the errors of my past. I had deleted the corrupted files. The next morning, I bought myself a new coffee maker. Not because it was aesthetic or trendy, or because Courtney would have approved of it. I bought it because it made excellent coffee, and because I liked it. I poured a cup, took a sip, and tasted something I hadn't tasted in years. I tasted my own life. I realized that day that you can't upload new data into a corrupted system. Sometimes, you just have to delete the file. Have you ever had to delete family to save yourself? Tell me your story in the comments. And if you're still holding on to the receipt for love you never got, tear it up.